Good evening to all from wherever you're watching this video. Today, I wanted us to look at Raila Odinga's Narok rally. This is a very critical rally for Raila Odinga's presidential bid because in the larger Rift Valley, there are really some 3 counties that Raila Odinga had mapped out just to make sure that he can seize a sizable number of votes from those counties. One of those counties is Narok County, the other one is Kajiado, that is the Ma community. Then he's also trying to court the West Pokot County. So the Narok rally was very critical. First, remember, William Ruto had just made a tour of Bomet County after the Eldoret. So I'm going to tell you why the Ma rally was really key to trying to make sure that he checkmates on the latest inroads by William Ruto in that area. That rally was held at Ololun'ga. Ololun'ga is a town, just a very small town from Narok town. I actually studied in Masai Mara, so I understand that area very well. So if you come from Narok, the next center is Ololun'ga. It was very strategic because it is a place that is bordering the Maasai and the Kalenjins, especially the Bomet, the residents of Bomet, the other side. Then that rally brought together leaders from Narok County, especially from the Narok town, the Narok East, Narok North, Narok West, and the Kilgoris, then Samburu, and also Kajiado County. So there are few observations that I made there, and that is what I want us to look at. But just before we do that, if you're watching this video for the first time, kindly take a second and subscribe. We are on our journey to 2,000. I think we're just less by 100 subscribers. I hope by the end of Monday, we shall be at 2,000 subscribers. And also, give this video a like so that YouTube can suggest our videos to as many people as possible. In that way, we shall be growing this Kevin Oduor community. Now, the Ololun'ga rally, the first observation that I made there was the issue of the Mau forest evictions. And I am not surprised because during every electioneering period, the Mau forest issue is normally used to woo the Ma community. And that is why the environment CS Keriako Tobiko attended that rally. First, in his capacity as a Maasai leader. Second, as a government civil servant, because I think nowadays they've been doing that. Then third, he was there critically to put a point on the Ma community eviction. But I think for 2022, Raila seems to be getting the card very right. Even though in 2013 and 2017, the Ma community have been really voting well for Raila Odinga. I think he can't complain. But then, there is the narrative that was being driven there by those leaders. The Ma eviction that was, I think that was done in 2012, when Raila Odinga, I think it was in 2011, when Raila Odinga was the prime minister. It was actually believed that people who invaded the forest were the other side, were the mostly majorly Kalenjins. And of course, the Ma forest belongs majorly to the Maasai community. So there was a bit of antagonism because the Maasai community was supporting the eviction so that the Mau forest could be protected and conserved. But the other side of the Kalenjins, there were some cartels that had encroached the forest and bought land, and it was a cartel of some businesses that was going on there. People buying land and selling, And so it was it's something that worked against Raila Odinga. When William Ruto and his brigade went there and mentioned very well that they were not going to, that the Mau forest issue Raila should just leave them, because the rainfall does not come from the forest, but the rainfall comes from the cloud. So if you remember that, that was there. So I looked, when you looked at it carefully, the Raila Odinga team was keen to reassure the Ma community that what is going to be there is that Raila really paid the ultimate price for the Mau forest conservation to go on, and I think water tower was built there. So it was a card that was played very well to sell that Raila Odinga really has the interest of the Ma community. So that one came out very easy. Now, secondly, another observation that he made there was also on the gubernatorial race in Narok County. Now, Raila had to parade all the gubernatorial aspirants in the podium to try to bring a truce. Even though, because sometimes that's really the way it was organized, I think Ole Kenta had really organized his troops, what I normally say in this channel as classified supporters. Classified supporters are supporters who are donning political merchandise, and they have specific directions to chant specific leaders. So Ole Kenta was really stole that show, even though it was an Azimio la Umoja. So when Raila paraded that team, Ole Kenta came out as the most outstanding. But then, I think the Narok gubernatorial race is a very interesting scenario for Azimio la Umoja. I have seen the other side. William Ruto, you remember, like, the incumbent governor is a Jubilee governor that was elected in 2013, then defended the seat in 2017. But now the other side of UDA, there is less competition because it seems Ololun'ga is carrying the ticket. But the other side of Azimio la Umoja, there is Ole Suji, there is Ole Kenta. Ole Suji, I think, is the KRA guy, the KRA commissioner. Then there is also Sunkuli, who is a PS. Raila Odinga was trying to root for a consensus there, so that they could be taken to a boardroom and they decide, so that one person leaves for the other. They get one candidate so that they can face off with UDA. But what I like is the fact that they are now embracing that all of them, I think there are almost 5 aspirants, they want to vie with Azimio la Umoja. That should be a good news to Raila Odinga, but a good headache for them to clinch that seat. So one thing I come to realize is Raila Odinga needs to be very careful, because this boardroom consensus is going to undermine the power of democracy. I think for there to be a euphoria, very well, there should be just a free and fair nomination. Just take these people to the ballot, because if they go to the boardroom, one candidate will just accept, and not all of them are going to buy it. There are others that shall go behind the scenes and go as independent. But if you go to a nomination, then someone loses fairly, then someone wins also fairly. The person who shall go as an independent, he will have less of the narrative to run with. So I think the gubernatorial race in Narok is one that is going to play out very well for Raila Amolo Odinga. It's going to give him the euphoria to get the votes from our community. Now, that is one. Those are 2 observations. So let's move forward and look at something that is also critical to the Masai Mara vote. I want to look at it. I want to look at the Narok rally wholesomely. Why really Raila Odinga is pushing more for the Ma vote. Now, I have realized, as I mentioned, that Raila Odinga's initial game in Rift Valley was to capture Narok, Kajiado, and and West Pokot. Now, I think that is going to be because his appointment there have really been Ole Kenta and the governor Olekina, the senator Olekina. Then in West Pokot, he has Lonyangapuo, who is really facing off with Kachapin, because UDA party is also fronting the former governor Kachapin to face off with Lonyangapuo. Then in Kajiado, there is also another tussle because Ole Nkadianye, who was an ODM governor, he was the first governor of Kajiado, is now also facing off with Ololun'ga, who is also an Azimio la Umoja candidate. But then, I think what Raila needs to sell is just to make sure that he sells the issue of the Maasai interest. Another thing that came up is the issue of the land. I think if Raila can address the land issue in the Maasai land, then he can really cut the cake from William Ruto. Because the list that William Ruto is going to talk about is about the issues of land. Even if he means well to solve the land issues in the Maasai land, but I think he's going to be, that narrative, that campaign manifesto is going to be tainted by the past cases on land. Actually, I saw Junet Mohammed coming out to say that he stole, he actually grabbed some land that belonged to some Kenyan VP somewhere. So guys, I think Joseph Murumbe or something. So this I think if Raila really banks well and have a very well coordinated campaign for Maasai land, then he is going to attract a chunk from that area. So guys, you can also tell us, what do you think about that rally? Do you think it was a success now that it now came to an end? So guys, sorry, there's been a voice in the background. That was my daughter. Yeah, she's somewhere in the bedroom, but you know what? Yeah, that's the voice that was coming out there. But now that is the voice of nature. Thank you very much, guys, for watching, and please continue subscribing.